everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today you're watching the first GoPro footage I was ever able to get, which was a big accomplishment for me because I'm not the most outgoing person, and wearing a giant GoPro on my chest is a little disconcerting. But I managed to power through it. I got some pretty decent footage. There's a few angles that I'm gonna have to work on, like kneeling down, which you'll figure out here in a minute when I get approached by a dog that I really want to pet, and I kneel down to pet it. And there's my leg, and the dog runs away. So, yeah. But I'll have to get used to some of the angles of moving around. They have this sale 2 times a year, and it's always set up the same. There's always toys on one side, household goods and stuff in the middle, and then Christmas items on the other side. But here's a tip for you. If you ever go to one of like these sales ran by an organization, check out their Facebook page, because I was actually able to look at pictures of some of the stuff yesterday, thanks to a post they made. And I know there's one item in particular that I want, but I have to get around this lady first. So I'm kind of trying to be nice and saying excuse me and get out of the way, because I see it down here at the end of the table. It is actually this Masters of the Universe Castle Grayskull that you see down here on the floor. They only want $2 for it, which is a great price. I just don't want to have to deal with how big it is, so I'm picking it up just for the parts. Because, like any of the action figures, play sets, any of that stuff, people need the parts for the big play set. So my husband gets the big play set. I think he's going to actually do something D&D related with it. And then I am taking the parts. I listed one lot for $40 and one lot for $25. And then I'm figured I'd look around the tables here a little bit, see if there's anything else. But here shortly, I'm going to head over to the next one in a minute. Yep, there we go. Off to the next pavilion. This one has a little mixture of stuff, but mostly it's books, electronics, and then there's like some linens and stuff like that. But this year I only picked up one thing, which is very strange for me in this pavilion, because usually I'll find some books or some games or something. Most of the books this year were romance novels and old various stuff that I didn't really care for. They had no resale value. But in a minute, we're going to stop and look at the games here. There wasn't really anything that I was interested in. I spy it and pick it up. It is this very old, dirty Gamecube. It needs a good cleaning. The eject button is actually broke on it, which I find out when I get home and test the thing. It has a power cord. It actually had a copy of Mario Kart in it, which was great. I didn't actually find that out till I bought it. I was just going to buy it and try it anyway. But I need to figure out what I'm actually going to do with the system. I might just sell it local. I hate selling things like that online, that there's a problem with it. You can sell it untested, but there's always, a risk with somebody getting it and then saying, hey, it doesn't work. Well, it works. It's just the eject button stuck, so we're going to have to try it out later and see what I can do with it. I don't know if I can clean it well and get it to work or not, so that'll take some trial and error to see. I move over to this side and look around. There's VHS tapes that I check out later that you don't see in the video, but nothing, anything good. And then all of these board games, all the boxes were destroyed. So I stick the Gamecube in my bag and we go on to the third pavilion. This is shoes in a little section to the side, and purses and hats. And then the big pavilion has clothes in it. This sale, they do set pricing on everything. So the first pavilion you get to, the shoes are all 50 cents each. And the hats are, I think, 50 cents. Belts are free. And I believe purses are 50 cents or $1, but I didn't pick up any of those. I actually just picked up one pair of shoes. Most of the shoes are like just generic Walmart brands, Target, stuff like that. A lot of stuff was beat up. These cowboy boots, the soles were absolutely destroyed. I came back and checked them later, even though the brands weren't all that great. At 50 cents, sometimes I'll buy brands that, $15, $20 worth that I don't normally stick around to, but, they were all destroyed. So I'm gazing around, trying to find anything that'll stand out as something different to take a look at. Kind of meandering through people here. And I spot these which were my first pickup. They're a pair of Danskos. They're actually the vegan with like the jute around the outside of them. They were in pretty good shape. They had a couple like scuffs to them, but nothing horrible. I tested the soles on them later. You don't see in the video, just to make sure there's no cracking, because Danskos are horrible about if they sit for too long, they get like dry rotted. So they were fine. I'm gonna check out a few more pairs of shoes at really horrible angles. And the Nikes you see right in the middle of the frame, they were destroyed. They had some cracking and scuffs and problems. And we're looking around, not really seeing much. So we're gonna pop those in my IKEA bag. A bunch of shoes in boxes, but they were all just commonplace Walmart brand stuff. I spied these Vans, which looked pretty good at first glance, but they had some wear on the back of them. And they were just like plain collared. So I just left those. And then we're going to be on to the clothing. They had a lot more clothing this year than they did last year. All these totes on the side and boxes were all full of clothing, but they were all unsorted. And I didn't find anything in those looking this year. So we checked out the coats first. The coats are all $1 each. So I spotted this Nike pullover, I think. Maybe it was a zip-up. Yeah, it was a zip-up. But it had that giant stain right in the middle that I quickly saw and put back. And then we're continuing on through. I know it's getting to be coat season, so I looked there first just to see if there was anything. I thought this might have been a Levi's jacket, but it was actually, I couldn't find the brand for the longest time, and eventually I found it, and it was the St. John's Bay. And it did have some holes on the side and some wear, so it went back. And then we're just gazing through. Like with everything else, there's a lot of Walmart brands. This is just rural Ohio, so there's not, designer clothes or anything here. Usually I find a lot of vintage stuff, which is usually what I get to, and that's what I get to later. But I found this Carhartt jacket, which was in decent shape. There's a few marks on it, some stuff that just needed lint rolled. But I listed it for $50. Try checking out the sides, make sure there's nothing wrong with it. I'll slide it off the hanger. And then I run into one of my problems. I didn't put it in the IKEA bag, and instead I held it in front of the GoPro for a while. So I lost some footage because it was covered up by the jacket. But I get to the t-shirts over here, which is where I headed next, the men's t-shirts, and start looking around. And this is where I find my best stuff. And I promise I put the jacket down here in a minute. But we're looking around. Usually I also find these sales, when you find the vintage stuff, it's all together. The ladies that run the sale are really nice about grouping everything. If they get in a whole bunch of shirts from the same people that are the same era, they're all in the same spot. So I find this one, and I set it aside to look at here in a minute. And then I find some more vintage. And it seems like it's all in the same section, so I just start making a pile. Find a few like older local sports stuff, but I leave it all sitting there. And then we're going to take a look, starting with this one. This one's a New Kids on the Block shirt. I actually come back the next day and pick this up for me. It's a 2013 and it's stained up, but the next day clothes were fill a bag for $2, so I picked it up the next day for me. Next shirt I picked up actually the next day too. I haven't got it listed yet. It's Kevin Sharp, I believe is his name. I don't know who he is. He's a singer of some sort. It was vintage. I picked it up the next day after it was still sitting there. And then this one was the great one. This was Puff Daddy. I sold it the same day I listed it for $200, which was great. Checked it for dry rot. It was fine. It had some cracking, some fading, obviously. You can tell on that, but it was good. Next shirt, I have it listed up for $30. It's NSYNC. I was in love with NSYNC when I was a kid. I mean, who wasn't? I think I was 12 when this came out. So preteen, Chris was my favorite for some reason. I have no clue why. And then the next one is this NSYNC shirt, which I have listed for $40. It's in a little bit better shape than the gray one previously. And then Reba, because everybody needs a shirt with Reba's face on it. But this one was also in good shape. I didn't see anything wrong with this one. A few marks, but nothing horrible. And then I checked this one for dry rot, which is what I mentioned earlier. You always need to do with the vintage shirts. Specifically the black ones, they seem to do it worse. You just kind of tear on the sleeve a little bit and make sure it doesn't rip. When they're dry rotted, they will completely tear apart in your hands when you go to do that little rip test. So all of those were good. T-shirts are 50 cents each. So I got a really great deal on that stuff. So then, of course, I start tearing through all the rest of the t-shirts to make sure I don't miss any. Because I'm always afraid I'm going to leave one behind. After you find a great big pile like that of so many good stuff, you got to dig through all of them and make sure you don't leave any there. Unfortunately, that was the last one, though. So then we head back over to the toy section from the other pavilion. And start looking around. I collect a few different 80s and 90s toys. So I'm always a lookout for me. I see this bag of pencils, and I immediately start checking it out to make sure there's no Lisa Frank stuff in there. There was not, unfortunately. Just generic pencils. So I'm just looking around, and I spot this bag, which is a whole bunch of Beyblade stuff. This is all the metal stuff. It was in good condition. Some of it's in like parts and pieces, so I listed it for $50. I'll take offers, see what I get. And then on to a few different things over here. I kneel down, start looking through the plush, hoping there's some 80s, 90s stuff in there. But there was nothing. It was all newer stuff. Nothing of note. And of course you see the wonderful angle of the camera. Out into the next plush tote. Nothing in here either. It was all just generic plush. A few different things I might have considered purchasing, but some of their prices were high this time on various stuff. I'm not really sure why. I find Snubble, but just like in the first video when I found a Pikachu, my daughter loves Pokemon, so it's staying with me. I debated on the Morio for myself, but they wanted $3 for that bag of just a couple plush things. I'm looking around for some more. I usually find vintage toys in this toy section, but this year there wasn't really, besides the He-Man, there wasn't really that much at all. Which is kind of disappointing. I saw the castle and then figured there'd be some figures or something that got donated with it, but there was nothing. Check these two toy boxes over here and find nothing again. So I come back a little bit later and they'd put out this Cabbage Patch. He's not one of the ones with like the loop hair. He's actually got fuzzy hair. So it makes him worth a little bit more. I have it listed for $40. And then for the last finds of the day, I run over to these bats. I was in a hurry and didn't really look at these things all that great. I thought they were full-size bats. They're actually Little League bats. But they're H&B, Roberto Clemente, both of them are Little League bats. I'll probably list them for, I think I paid 50 cents each for them. I'll probably list them for 20 each, but I'm not expecting all that much for them. And that's it. Thank you for watching my first video, and I hope you come back for the many more I plan to do one at a time. So thank you everybody for watching. Bye-bye.